automatically have to bring in a word which we will use a lot today, function. Okay, so we're looking at the function of language. And the heart of the course is, or behind the heart of the course is the pedagogy or pedagogical approach that says when teaching English, it is important for us to understand that we teach English in a functional way. Students must be doing things with the language. If not, we might smile and be polite about it, but at the end of the day, they may not actually be acquiring knowledge. Yes, they may not be able to use the language. And we went through little scenarios. We had quite a good time last week, actually, just going through real life scenarios of classroom practice where students are exposed to traditional frames of learning language. So somebody can actually deal with multiple choice, get 5 multiple choice items and get everything right, but can't speak the language. And if you move from that and you ask them to write something on their own, just write a little snippet of something, they can't do it, or they struggle to do it, and yet those multiple choice items demonstrate a 5 out of 5 level of competence, okay? And so one of the things we're saying, and we went through the linguistic ideas behind some of the traditional approaches to teaching, which looked at people like Chomsky, and it might sound foreign to you at this point, but when you get to go through, you'll have an understanding of that. And so certain theorists pointed to the idea that, you know what, grammar is an innate thing. People just acquire rules of language based on that. And what the function of language is saying is that it can't be that it's an innate thing. Because if it was an innate thing, then we wouldn't have the levels of difficulty that we do with our different types of students at this point in time. Okay, so we were supposed to, let me see what is happening here. I'm trying to, okay, there we go. So we looked at 2 basic ideas last week. We introduced the concept of language and defining language, and we introduced the concept of communication, and we defined communication. And the bottom line with this course is that we do not allow a separateness when we deal with both of them. So the purpose of language, when we went through our exercises and our tasks last week and we reflected on our lives, we looked at a situation where we looked at, for example, what it is that is taught in a classroom space to children, yes? How is language taught to them? And then we looked at how was language used by us or those around us in the last 24 hours, okay? And when we compare the list of how we use language in 24 hours, in the last 24 hours, as compared to how we teach the children language, we saw a huge difference, okay? The rigidity with which we taught, we were not seeing in our natural use of language. So Sonia and Dharma, you can remind me of some of the examples. We had things like calling, somebody called their father to express affection. What was the other thing again? Thanking the Lord for saving her from an accident.
Telephone calls.
Yes, business for business, right? So we looked at ways in which we're using language, and then we went back to things like where we looked at. I remember. Yes, income tax. we looked at what was the question again? Now it's on your old PowerPoint, but we looked at 2 questions, right? And I asked everybody the same 2 questions. I think Sonia's trying to find it now. And the idea is when you look at the questions, one question was, is there any income tax in Jamaica? And Lyra, you might want to look at that in St. Lucia. So you have this question, is there any income tax in Jamaica? What is your likely answer? Especially those of you who are just coming in. What would be your answer? Yes, Ashley says. Lyra, what would you say if I asked you if there's income tax in St. Lucia?
Yes, there is income tax.
So is there any need to go further than that? Would that have answered my question? Yes would have answered my question, yes, correct? Okay, but then look at the question, is there any salt on the table? So I'm at your house and you've invited me to a grand dinner, right? And I would like to put a little salt, as I told Dharma last week, because you're cooking Aita, right? So there's no salt. And I'm looking for salt in a polite way. And I say, is there any salt on the table? What would your answer be, Lyra?
No, there is not any salt on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, can I get you some salt? Do you want
some? So that's exactly where we went last week. So the idea is that kind of question now, because of its context, places us in a different frame of mind. If you just said to me, no or yes, it would have seemed impolite. I would have wondered, my word, well, I shall not be coming back to your house anytime soon, right? But it's the same phrasing as the question before about the income tax. But because the context of the question has changed, my response and your response automatically changes to suit the context. And so we looked at the fact that where language and communication is concerned, not only do you have the sender and the recipient sending this message, yes, but you have a context. And so the course insists on the idea that language must be taught in a context. Students are not to learn things in isolation. They have to learn it within a context, because it is the context that explains to them how the language will actually be used. Everything clear to point? Yes? Okay. All right. So language versus structure. Sonia and Dharma, I'm going to pick on you now. We had looked at that should actually be language use versus structure. We had looked at language use versus structure. I'm going to select each of the ladies take one and hope that they tell me the right answer. Okay, so Dharma, let me start with you as language as structure. If we're looking at language as structure, what ways are we tending to look at language? Or how are we seeing it? Your own words now. Your own words. You want Sonia to go first? Okay.
Language and structure.
Mm-hmm.
In my own words, we'll be looking at the grammar,
Mm-hmm.
the grammar, the linguistics of
Mm-hmm.
language.
The linguistic, yes. So it's the linguistic knowledge of a language.
Right.
Can you hear her, Lyra?
Yeah, everybody?
Okay. So the linguistic knowledge, the language elements, okay, parts of speech, you get into punctuation, yes, all right? So language structure looks at this word has to go in this particular order, because if it doesn't, then it's not going to make sense, or it's not going to get across this particular meaning. So what about language use, language as function?
All right.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually getting across what you really want to say,
Mm-hmm.
the person understanding it,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to use the language for the purpose of which it was intended. For instance, the salt.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have salt? No, but you really need salt. So at the back of the mind, you realize that this person needs salt, but there's no salt on the table.
Yeah.
So it's actually using language to get
To do something or to get something done. Yes. All right. And so context, you can't have language use without a context, and that's the bottom line. So one of the things we brought up, for example, and I'm going to bring it up today because it's a famous traditional exercise, is the issue of filling in the blanks. Remember we looked at that, okay? A very typical grammar exercise that students are given constantly, but where does it get them to? Is that using language in a functional way? What are they doing when they do that, complete that exercise, all right? So what you want to have in your mind is a clear understanding of what the structure would refer to and what the function would refer to. Now, if I'm looking at the function versus the structure, I'm always thinking about why would students be using this language, this element of language. So if it is a noun, I'm not satisfied with just saying, hi students, good morning, how are you doing? What is a noun? And they supply the answer, and I say, okay, now here's an activity on nouns. And a noun is the name of a person, place, or thing. And we give them the activity, great. Or I might even model it before and show them what the noun is, what it looks like, and then they do the activity. How is that activity framed? Okay? Because if it doesn't have a context surrounding it, they're using the grammar in isolation, and so they may not be readily able to then apply the use of that noun in another given context. Everybody clear on that? Yes, good. All right, so I'm going to ask those who were here last week, and it's something I will do every week. So this is the one thing that will be predictable. Come. Oh, that wasn't very long. Sorry about that, Lyra. Somebody knocked on the door. I want you to tell me what stood out for you last week. Now, when I ask this question, I'm going to ask it in every session. Okay? When I ask this question, I don't want it to be a forced. Let me think of an academic way of answering this question. Okay? I don't want that. I want literally that, something came out and connected with you last week at some point in the lesson. And if you could share with us, those of you who are here, what was that?
Well, actually, what stood out for me last week was
This is Dharma speaking, sorry.
was a real use of language.
Mm.
And you mentioned Noam Chomsky,
Mm-hmm.
and his theory really could work in a functional
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
really couldn't work functional because even though children are unique and they are diverse,
Mm-hmm.
then they couldn't just born innate with a language.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because language has different uses.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It has different uses and it has different contexts. And I mean, we all don't use language in the same way. As we do know, if we should really stand and listen to some people out, yes, you realize. And I think what we brought out as well was during the still going on the Commission of Inquiry, how some people use of language and other persons based on the context, so they understood it. And the three phases of language, the expression, the meaning, and context. Right. So that's what stood out for me. So I really became aware of, you have to be careful what's the message you send across in using your language. So that's it. All right. Thank you, Sonia.
Well, for me, is making language very practical in the classroom.
Yeah. So that's what stood out, as opposed to
Okay, do this, read this, learn this, come back and just say what you learn from the content of what you've been given to read. But do something practical.
Right.
That they can identify with.
Precisely.
And that will make it stick. On a cognitive level, where that is not just a figure of speech or a part of speech, but it's in action with real life situations.
Right. Okay. So the bottom line with context, and I've put up some keywords, and those are the keywords that we looked at last week, right? The bottom line with context is that the student is able, because of the context, to be interested, stimulated, that the activity or task is actually purposeful. There's no point to the task if it doesn't resonate with purpose. We're dealing also with generations of children, remember, who are used to tablets and computers. They're used to a fast-paced way of thinking. And so if you're not going to show them how this is relevant or allow them to connect with the material, then you're going to find that you've completely lost them at some point, okay? So we look at language use, functions tied to language use, context, and then communication. And what we're saying is, if we think about it, the bottom line is we use language to communicate. That's the bottom line. And so in the classroom, we can't be teaching language for other purposes when the main use of language is to communicate. So interaction has to be an extremely important feature of any language classroom. Okay? All right, Leora, you still good? All right. Let me just check and see. This is Patrice.
No.
Shantae. Additional. They just told me this was my final update today. All right, Shantae. So Leora, Shantae just entered. Shantae, just tell Leora hi so that Leora doesn't feel all alone there in temperature, please. I can't move it anywhere. Yeah, you can see her, right? So, Shantae, Leora, that was Shantae telling you hi.
Okay.
Can't see it at this point because I'm sharing the. Yes, it's one of the negatives of sharing is that she can't get to see us. Okay, so Shantae, I assume pass around some information or a paper for you to fill in this information, please. All right. So let's look at an overview, because it's important that at the end of every session you leave having an understanding of what you have done and how you have moved forward from the last session. Okay. So today we're going to look a little more closely at understanding communication, which is why you need the diagram that I sent you today or earlier to deal with the communication process. We'll be looking at that diagram to try to go through that communication process and see how it works. Leora actually had just sent you that diagram so you can get ready to use it. Then we'll also be looking at the CLT approach and the features of the CLT approach. Now, once again, The CLT approach is what is used to frame this course, the communicative language teaching approach, okay? That is the theoretical approach that literally frames the course. So everything we do in the course, and we've chosen that approach because it's considered to be an eclectic approach, which provides a balance, okay? So we do look at structure, but we look at structure within a context, okay? So even if the terms sound opposite to you, we'll show you how it works. It can work, all right? And we'll be closing by looking at Michael Halliday, who speaks primarily, a linguist who speaks primarily on language use. Dharma, you know that name? No? Okay. Dharma is a whole bunch of things, including a linguist. So I should keep me on my toes. All right. So let's begin by looking at understanding communication. Let me say for all of the persons who came in today that at any point during our discussions, if you have a question, please ask. Don't wait too long because the question might go and it might be an important question. Okay? Let me see if I can move this icon. All right. Okay. So, Lyra, are you able to see outside of the PowerPoint? You are? Yeah. Oh, because you told me you would be. So you can see who are you seeing now? Are you able to see Ashley and Sonia?
Right now I'm seeing the wall.
Oh.
I was seeing the wall ever since.
Okay. Guys,
seeing two people now, yes.
All right, that's Ashley and Sonia. Okay, this side now. Look this way.
Yeah, in a red shirt.
All right. So we have Shante, then we have Sashana, and then we have Dharma. Okay. Sorry, I was told that I couldn't see you, or you couldn't see us. So let's keep that there. All right, so we're looking at understanding communication. At this point, you can get out your diagram and just have a look at the diagram while we're going through this. Tashana, if you have, did you get it? Because of the Wi-Fi, you still can't get it.
Yes, I found it.
Locks. Well, yeah, next time I'll definitely have to come with the copies. Yeah, it's not. Oh, last week you didn't have it. Oh, I had it last week. Oh, don't know what's happening. All right, do you have your diagram there, Lyra?
Beg pardon?
Do you have the diagram there?
Yes, the diagram, no, I'm seeing.
Diagram with two heads?
No. Understanding communication and components of language.
No, not on the screen. Ashley had sent it to you. So I don't know if you could check again. Ashley had sent what did you send it? The course outline?
I sent it. No, the course outline content.
Okay.
I don't know how to exit what the lab technician puts.
Oh.
Because I'm seeing your screen right now on the screen.
Yeah. Okay. And if you look down at the bottom of the screen, you're not able to pick up. You're not seeing your email or picking up Chrome.
No.
Internet apps. Okay.
Because it just came on when just now. Let me try to. Okay. All right. Okay. I got it.
Okay. So
what is it that you said?
I think it's entitled diagram. Yeah. So it's a diagram.
Diagram of the communication process.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I have it.
Since the technology is failing us, I think as of next week, I'm going to have to put in an argument. The idea is that we're supposed to be paperless, but obviously that's not working. Yeah. So that's the mandate we have received as facilitators, but that can't work if you don't have the Wi-Fi working.
Okay, I have it now.
All right, but as of you'll notice for all of the persons who are new, you will get this beforehand. Yes, you get this.
Okay.
You get the material
All right.
class so that you can have. But I'll make sure to have them handy. Okay, so let's go. So if we look at that diagram, you'll notice that there are particular parts of language as communication based on what's on the diagram. You have the sender, the receiver, message, text, feedback, context. Everybody's able to have an idea of that. So it's only one diagram in this room. I don't know if you could just send it. So, yeah, well, it would be, yeah, that's how it would be actually, going back. Okay. All right, if you could just let them have a look as well. All right, what I really want you to focus on. So on your diagram, observe the different terms which are associated with sender and receiver. Are you able to see the different terms associated with sender and receiver? Can you read them out for me, please? Sender would be? Yeah.
Writer,
Good.
speaker,
Right. And for receiver?
decoder,
Yeah.
reader,
Uh-huh.
listener.
Okay. So what do you recognize about, why would there be different categories? What is it saying? What is that saying, the fact that there are different categories on the sender and receiver?
About the receiver?
Yes. So this is just a class question now. So let me choose specifically. Let me ask you specifically. All right. So Sean. Hush. All right. So look, if you're looking on the sender and you recognize on the sender, you also have different terms. How would you read the diagram? What do you think that is suggesting? That section of the diagram where you see sender, right there, yes. What is it suggesting to you? Read the terms aloud again for everybody, please. Sender, encoder, right? Encoder, yes. Writer and sender, encoder, writer, speaker. All right. Why do we have 4 names there? What is that suggesting? Are they all connected? Yes. Okay. So if you have that diagram to read, you're reading that diagram now, and you have to translate what that means. There are 4 words there. Okay. So it means that all of these persons, different modes, different labels, but they're seen as the sender. Yes. Okay? So they're all seen as the sender. Why I'm trying to point that out to you is because we tend to look at communication in one way. I say something, you receive it, you give the feedback, there's a context surrounding it, but understand that communication can work in all of those different situations as well. Okay? So the mode determines the term which will be applicable. Okay, but the important factor is that meaning is actually being transferred from sender to receiver. Does everybody understand and see that? So receiver, give me the names for receiver now. Okay, so are you seeing the process? So you get into a classroom situation, you may not literally see sender, receiver. The mode changes, but it's the communication that is taking place, and you have to understand that communication ought to be taking place. So if a student is writing an essay for you, a student must have an audience. A student must have a context for that essay. The essay becomes the message or the text. Are you with me? The student becomes the sender, okay? The essay becomes the message or the text, yes? The teacher becomes the receiver, yes? And the context, whatever the question asks the student to do in whatever context. With me, Lyra? Yes. Is everybody clear on why it is important that then you understand that diagram then? So what I'm saying is you have to, for this course and for the pedagogy attached to the course, you have to recognize that communication takes place in every task that they're given. Every task that they're given is framed by this idea, the act of communication taking place. So if I give them a fill in the blank, I have to now question myself. And I'm using that often because that's what keeps coming to me. Okay? An essay can come to me as well. Yes? Think of the traditional things that we give them to do. Yes? And why are they doing it? What's the purpose of the activity? Is it a communicative activity? At the end of the day, what's the context framing that activity? What are they doing with it? Yes? So if they take notes in class, what is the communication that is happening there? They take notes for 40 minutes. What's happening? Are you with me? Okay. So what I'm saying to you is the fact is, as much as we might feel good when we go home, because we've given all of this knowledge and content, if the event, if what we have given them is not language in use, then their own competence is going to be restricted. Clear? Okay. Very good. Excellent. And that's what it is. Yes? So notice also the different forms of text. Okay? And notice the difference between what? Message and text and the question mark in the listener's mind. Can anybody explain, including you, Lyra, anybody explain that last part? What is that difference between message and text? And why is there a question mark in the listener's mind? Just looking at the diagram. The diagram has the question mark, right? They don't want me to call on them, you know, Ashley. That's why they're trying to give you the She has.
The difference, I think, between the message and text is that the message has been encoded, but the receiver hasn't decoded it.
Brilliant. Excellent. I can send, we have arguments all the time. This is a very argumentative society, right? We love arguments, right? So I can say something, right? If I tell my children X and I make that statement, right? And then let us say I've said to my son, pick up the toys off the ground, right? I'm tired of telling the same thing over and over. I may just in fact pass and say, pick them up, okay? Because I'm tired of speaking now. I've said it 50 million times. I've sent a message, yes? Now, I come back 10 days later, and he's having a fabulous time on the ground with the toys. And I'm saying, no, what other language do you wish me to speak? That's what the tendency is, right? But here's the issue. I've sent a message. That's the intended message. But has he received the message I have sent in a way that he comprehends what he is to do? Are you with me? Now, if we just allow that to gel for a moment with what happens in the classroom, whether primary or secondary or tertiary, I send a message, but who says that my students receive the message that I've sent? All right? Leah, are you primary or secondary?
Secondary.
Okay. And what's your area of specialization?
History, geography, social studies.
The same. Full rounder, okay. All right, history, geography, and social studies. Well, they're all related, so yes. Okay. At least it's not like out here. Out here, you can be a language teacher and you can be called to come and teach religious studies. Right? Okay. So, all right. Okay, so let's move from that. I think you've understood that now. Let's move from that. So the communication process involves a message, which is the idea, yes? The text, which is the way the language is used to get across the message. And you understand that because I can verbally get across a message to you right now. So right now, the text I'm using is this classroom space here right now as facilitator, okay? I'm speaking to you all, and you all in turn speak to me. I can use a textbook, right? I can use a newspaper article. I can use cartoon strips. I can use all of those different things as text. Yes? Same idea. I can have the same idea, but different texts getting across that same idea. And of course, the question mark, as you have correctly said, is the intended meaning may or may not be received depending on the listener's perception. Now that's a whole new ballgame. We have an entire unit on perception because communication is so heavily tainted or influenced by perception, right? So I'll say to my students, I may come in, right, and I'm having a very bad hair day, which is very customary with me, right? But I'll be having a very bad hair day. And those of you who know what it's like to rush and keep going and keep going. You don't have time to spend doing the curlies, okay? And so you rush out. Now I come in, I am conscious, I'm aware of the fact that, you know what, today I'm having a bad hair day. Now I assume that everybody else is thinking the same thing because clearly it must be obvious to you if it's obvious to me, right? And so I step into the classroom, and when I step into the classroom, a student looks at me with great, you know, a terrified look on her face as though, really, miss, honestly, you could have done better today. She doesn't say anything, but the look that she gives me. Now, I don't know why the student is looking at me like that, but I automatically assume, yes. And so I start getting very walled up and say, well, listen, okay, everybody has a bad day. Kindly just allow me. Now, that student could have been coming to me to ask me a question about a part of an assignment that she's completely puzzled about. What happens there is my perception is skewed by her facial expression. Are you with me? She did not intend to send that message, but that's the message I picked up because of how I perceived the situation. And we know we have many instances in the classroom which occur like that, including a student who asks a question which totally is outside of the boundaries of what we intended to deal with and has totally shaken us out. You don't know where that question comes from, and quite frankly, you don't know how to answer it right now. Okay? And so in dealing with it, very often we become defensive instead of just backing off and recognizes that in the process of learning, the teacher is included in that learning process. Okay? We are not on a high horse sitting and looking down. Okay? All right, so that was just an example. Let's move. So if I'm looking at perception and cultural, not even cultural, if I'm looking at context in the communication process, here are some contexts that I'm going to be dealing with. Cultural contexts, the attitudes, the values, the ideologies of the language users. Agreed? I'm going to be looking at the personal side of things. My identity and my emotion all come to play in that communicative event. Structural things, social divisions. We have a lot of class issues in our society, okay? Do I judge people based on how they speak? We looked at it last week, the standard English versus the Creole. People assume that if you speak only Jamaican Creole, you have no sense. And if you speak standard English, you have all the sense in the world, when sometimes it would be the very opposite, right? The way the society is organized based on gender. Do you approach somebody or use a certain type of language because of the person's sex, if they're male or if they're female? Do you use more childlike language when you're speaking to a female than if you're speaking to a male, and you carry that into the classroom, right? When sometimes the males are longing for a little, yes, a little sensitive thing there. Race, class, and we could go on, okay? Then you have the social context, where you actually have relationships between language users, and we look at the purposes as well within those social contexts, okay? And related to whatever that speech event is, the physical and locational features. Are you outside speaking? Are you in an elevator speaking? Do you react the same way to somebody in an elevator that you do in an open space? Yes? Are you forcing yourself to smile because you're in a confined space and feel the need to be polite? Whereas if you're in public, you would walk past the person and not think twice. All right? So little things like that, but they do affect the communicative, and they also affect context. Okay? All right. Here's what I want you to do. So Lyra, do you have Google Talk, Lyra?
At home?
Okay. Okay. All right. So because there was one more person who should have been with you, but she's not going to be in for a few weeks. Do you know her, Lyra? You know of her? Kira Hilton? Yes. You don't know of a Miss Hilton, Kira Hilton?
Hilton?
Hilton. Yeah. Well, she should have been there with you, but she's a bit ill today. Okay. All right. So Lyra, I'm going to, for now, I'm going to allow you to work on your own. What we'll sort out, since I know you're on board now, is we'll try to sort out the Google Talk so that you could attach yourself to somebody here. Yes? And the two of you could work together. Okay? But we'll work on that off air before next week. All right. So what I want everybody to do, here you can do it in pairs of a group of 3. Yeah? Discuss how each of these contexts or situations could have an impact on the process, of communication in general. Hold on now. Right. So you're going to look at these contexts here, the cultural, the personal. I'm going to split them up, okay? So cultural and personal, I'm going to ask Ashley and Sonia to take the cultural and personal. Structural and social, I'm going to ask these ladies here to my right. And physical and locational features, I'm going to give you Lyra. Okay, so what you are to do is, based on those things, which I'll put back up on the screen, you are to discuss how each of these contexts or situations could actually affect a communicative event, an instance of communication between two people or among persons. Is it clear to everybody what I'm asking? Lyra, are you good to go?
Yeah.
Okay, so you concentrate on Lyra, Ashley and Sonia A and B, and Shantae, Sashana and Dharma, C and D. I'll give you a few minutes to do that and we'll come back to the table. It's back? All right. Oh. Honey? Yeah. You did something? I'm back because that's what they're saying that you can. All right, so Ashley has it. Right. How might those two, those are all contextual, yes? How might those two contexts affect any communicative event, any communication between two people or between persons, yeah? Yeah, there, Leroy?
Pardon?
I'm just asking if you're good, if you're okay, if you're understanding what to do.
I think so. I'm trying to think of some situations.
Right, okay. Not necessarily. If that's probably her way of responding. That's fine. All right, I'm gonna pull you back in about 2 minutes.
Okay.
Some people use I just before I just one right. It's all kind of which ideology that is being so advocate right, we are somewhere we hear about and that is communication with visuals, not just through language, so you are through visual aid, the language.
All right, can we come back? Are we good to go? All right, so let's just go in the order that from what you see in Lyra, are you able to see Ashley and Sonia there?
Yes.
Right, because we can't gauge. All right, I'm gonna let them start with cultural and personal. So, you know, how might the cultural and how might the personal affect that communicative event? Ashley and Sonia, you're on the floor.
We were looking at cultural as being the way of life of a people. So we look at religion and we look at in our context with some predominant religions like Christianity and Rastafarianism.
Okay.
So in Rastafarianism, they have their own structure, language structure. For example, the I tell the I man.
Dread talk. Yes.
Dread talk. Whereby in Christianity, you know, that's a different holy type talk.
Okay. Okay. But they do have their own language set up. Yes. Okay.
So
okay.
So we looked at that, and then we were thinking also that in terms of ideology, okay, so our deity is for some, not all, right. Would be Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Or if I'm going to the depth of that. But and then the other one, well, for Christianity would be Jesus Christ. Obviously, right?
Yeah.
So what you have there now is division, because and so you have our community over here, and your community over there, and then some of them might just want to be very basic, very no salt, no shoes, and you know, go back to him. So they're communicating non-verbally there through how they present themselves.
Okay.
And so we got the language, the ideology, and the values. So you place a great value on Jesus Christ, I place a great value on a man. God incarnate in his imperial majesty. Right. And then,
so we talked about how that back to your example of Kabbalah Hair Day and how emotion could affect our interaction when you misinterpret somebody, not realize perhaps what they really want. And then identity, similarly, when someone identifies themselves as, it actually brings in racism and classism as well, because who they identify themselves as, they identify themselves as superior to somebody else, or even as inferior to someone else.
Right.
It's going to affect what they hear, the message that they hear, and what they
Makes sense.
think about.
Definitely. Right.
we also looked at the other part, like from a personal perspective, one may invest in their grammar, their vocabulary. So you want to speak all the florid language, and you play from a personal perspective. So you're ascribing a certain sense of identity.
Certainly,
to you
because of
your vocabulary, the language you
register.
speak.
Yes.
So
Good. All right. Excellent. All right. I'm going to move now to this group over here. Are you able to see Lyra?
Yes.
Great. Okay, let's go.
for structural, we talk about the issue of race, whereas maybe you have like a tourist coming in, somebody who's well dressed and have an accent, might go into an establishment and you will greet them with a warm welcome and you put your language well together. And if you see probably somebody walking who looks like a local, dresses down, dresses shabby or casually, you will probably address that person different from how you address the tourist.
Yep.
Okay, and for social relationship, is one. My understanding of this is that social relationship is one in which persons are in interact with each other. So we're in a social relationship, right?
Right.
However, what we discussed was that the social relationship with persons who are closer, for example, immediate family members,
Right.
is normally different from
Very
that.
good. Yes.
In a relationship like a professional social relationship
Definitely.
with your supervisor, your boss, and yourself. So, for example, I was saying, in a relationship with my mother and I would say, Mom, you're not driving good, but if it was my boss.
That's all. Yes.
It was my boss, I was driving it. Please take your time.
Look at that. Yes. Yes. Okay. Very good. All right. Okay. Lyra, we come because yes. I mean, look at that speedometer. You're working. Yes. Got a nice thing to say. Yes. Okay, Lyra, you're on the floor now.
Okay, I was a bit confused about the all of which surround the speech event. I didn't know exactly what you meant by the speech event, but I said that communication with regards to a situation can be affected, and I made a comparison between two settings. For example, if you have a speech event or any communication process occurring in a closed area,
Right.
a classroom setting, for example, probably air-conditioned classroom setting, and you have student, teacher, and the door is closed and it's quiet, then there should not be quite that much of a problem in communication being successful because the classroom is free from outside disturbances. But if you have something going on in the outside, then you may have some problems with communication because the sender may convey a message, but the reader may not decode it because of all of the disturbances, probably persons passing by, noise of vehicles driving on the road, a whole list of different things that may take their attention away from what the message that the sender is trying to convey.
Okay, and that's great. So you did it. And when it said all of which surround the speech event, it was really referring back to physical and locational features, which surround the speech event. So you did it perfectly. And I'm smiling as you speak because though you set up a wonderful scenario, I'm thinking of many primary and secondary schools that have that noise element. While a teacher is teaching, there's all of that going on, as well as those classrooms that I've had to pass and go into, where it's just, I'm trying to find a nice way to say what's in my mind, but it's yes, a blackboard is divided. So,
classrooms.
yes, I have a student supervising in Grenada actually, and she sends me the parts of the data, a master's student, she says the data, and half of the time I'm saying, how do you hear anything in this? Because there are 3 different classes going on in the one space, but they're divided on Blackboard. Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, if I'm on the outside hearing it, you know, and it seems noisy to me, what are the poor children and the teacher as well experiencing? So I think that's actually an excellent point to bring up in relation to that. Okay, so I think everybody, you have an understanding of where we're going with the context, yes? All right. Okay, so in the Caribbean language classroom, therefore, and we've left it as the language classroom, so even for the French and Spanish specialists that I have in here, there are aspects to the content that you should be able to take back to your classroom. Hopefully, you know, make this all much more worthwhile. So tasks given to students need to be based on real communication. And I'm hoping that when you leave this evening, that's the bottom line. You'll take that with you. Okay? Classroom instruction and methodology need to be informed by the fact that context has an impact on the language learner and affect his or her ability to understand and use language. Is that clear? Huh? Yes. Yes, context, right? There are 2 errors there. So in other words, what we are bottom line saying is that if you do not provide this context, there's a lot that you will not end up knowing about the language competence of the student. That's the, you know, because they can mask, and we've seen it. They can mask that they know it, but the competence is not there. So remember, and you see, this is the difference now between Chomsky and the knowing of language. This course is not interested in the idea of the knowing of language. It's the use of it, because I can know all of this, right? And then I can't use it. And what's the point of knowing all of that if I can't use it, right? Precisely. So my methodology has to be informed by that principle, that whatever I give them, it should be contextual, it should be purposeful, yes, it should be interactive in such a way that they are to use the language. So they are getting the structure, you know. It's just that my focus is not on them knowing what a noun is simply, but now they're able to use the noun, because that's what language is about, right? I did say it last week, so the 2 of you have to forgive me, but I'll bring it up again just because it's here. And I was saying, I lived in England for a little while, and when I was there, I had to do French, but we never did French in writing. We did French in speaking. When I came here, I had to deal with French exams. Yes, we had orals, but the predominant thing was writing. And I just, you know, we went to Paris, we went to all of these places, and I got so excited, but of course at the time they had to speak very slowly for me to understand. But the point is, I was excited because I knew what I was supposed to say. When I started to write, I felt as though I had never learned this language in my life, right? But it's amazing, because the thing about it is the one I needed the most was actually the ability to use the language, the filling in and etc. And, you know, the conjugation took a while. But the point I'm trying to make, it's not that the writing isn't important. We'll deal with writing in a special unit for the course. It's not that, it's just the use. Why am I writing? Okay, is it every class I'm going to come and write an essay, a composition? We tend to use it, and yes, and in fact, remember, we're a second language learning community chiefly. Most of our students, English is not their first language. I wish we would stop saying that it is. It is not their first language, it is their second language. No, but it will work. The Jamaican language unit over here, they have piloted and shown that if you actually even use Patois as a language of instruction, it actually works. The students are on the same level as if a teacher taught, yes, using English as a language of instruction, which goes to show you that it really, you know, that aspect of it is not, there's no difference. But the issue is that because we're teaching it as though they already know it, we're not teaching the language. We're just giving them these things to do with the language, but they don't know the language, right? Okay, so teaching a little about language, but mostly focusing on teaching learners to do, and I know it sounds funny, but to do language. In other words, to utilize the language in a functional way. It makes no sense to be able to tell you that the noun is the name of a person, place, or thing if at the end of the day I cannot use a noun in a sentence. What's the point? Cannot. Okay? Right? Yes, and in a given context. Yes, right. That's the idea of the context. Okay, so what helps us to establish this kind of pedagogy in our classroom? The CLT approach, and that's the communicative language teaching approach. Based on what Littlewood says, the approach is a unified but broadly based theoretical position about how language works and how we can apply that to language learning and teaching. Okay, so it's broad enough to accommodate many other theories and positions, to be quite frank. Okay, it is seen as an umbrella term because it's used to capture the essence of classroom methodological approaches that are designed not to teach students about the language, but to improve students' ability to communicate. And that's very important. Okay? The approach was actually developed out of the writings of British applied linguists, Wilkins, and you'll get some readings on this, Wilkins, Widdowson, Bromfield, Canlin, and there are others. There's also an American educator who I actually like quite a bit because I think he's very practical, is Savignon. Okay? And he's done a lot of work on communicative competence. In other words, what causes a student to be communicatively competent. Okay? And he looks at the wide range of things. All right. So what we're going to focus on just for a bit, we're going to look at the features of a CLT classroom. If I step into a CLT classroom, I'll tell my undergrads that when I go into the classroom, I just need 5 minutes to figure out what their approach is. 5 minutes. Yes, 5 minutes, right? I'll take a snippet of the lesson plan. I'll look at the way the class is set up, and I'll look at the demeanor of the teacher. And in 5 minutes, I'm not saying I know everything about the lesson and mark them. I can't mark them down based on that or mark them up based on that. But I'll have a sense of what type of classroom this actually is. Understood? Whether it's student-centered or teacher-centered. That's where I'll start first. Okay? All right. Now, a CLT classroom is a student-centered classroom. Again, it's based on an eclectic approach, which means it pulls on a number of different approaches that are considered best practice approaches, right? That will allow students to be flexible and to learn in a way that will sustain their interest, but at the same time, cause them to grow intellectually, academically, okay? All right, so let's look at the first one. The features, first one is purposeful. Everything you do in that classroom must have a purpose. Now, it looks easy when we say that, you know. But one of the things with teaching is that if you're going to do it right, and you should know that already, it takes a whole heap of work. It does. So preparation, yes, and just to keep upbeat. You're feeling low one day and you're not feeling as though you're able to, and you have to breathe in, step into that classroom and begin. Yes, you can't allow anything to bother you, but your task, the task that you set up, when you think of your, and I'm going to use one main idea because I have a task for you to do later on. I'm going to use one main. Let me see now. Something. I'm going to look at. Let me look at paragraph writing. Everybody is okay with that topic? Can I look at paragraph writing? All right. I want to teach paragraph writing, right? So let's apply that to the features. Now, I've been given paragraph writing to teach based on a syllabus and based on what my HOD says I have to do. Okay? And we do it at all levels, from primary straight through. So everybody should be able to have a little idea here. I want that paragraph writing to be purposeful. So what do I do? What's the first? We don't reach the classroom yet. I'm thinking now as the teacher, and I'm sitting and I'm preparing. What's the first thing that I want to think of if I'm going to think purposeful and paragraph writing? Anybody can chip in. Make it physical. So explain.
It's something but there are different learners in the classroom.
Right.
But for me, if something is going to be purposeful for me, I need it needs to be something
Tangible. Okay.
But, okay, I don't want to jump ahead, but my activity
Mm-hmm.
for such a class would be get a blank sheet of paper
Mm-hmm.
and I would mark an X on it
Mm-hmm.
and have the students write something, what they think a paragraph is.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do the correction.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if they do it, then they will be applauded, and if they don't, then they will be corrected.
Okay.
It would have to be something that they do
Physically.
in order to
And you're saying and they have to have something they can touch. Yes? All right. Okay.
All right.
We'll keep adding to that.
I'll think of if I'm just introducing to them what is paragraph, I'll think of a topic that is really stimulating, wherein everybody would want to talk about this topic. For instance, sports day or pajama party, or my favorite TV show, or my favorite cartoon, something that will stimulate everything as appeal to their every senses, and then you just get physical.
Okay. All right, Vera. Any ideas here?
Purposeful?
Yeah. Paragraph writing. You see how your face looking? Why your face look like that? You're making it paragraph writing can't be purpose here. What on earth can I think of for paragraph writing? What would you think of to make paragraph writing purposeful? Or what comes to mind?
Well, probably letting them know the purpose. Sorry, probably letting them know what a paragraph does.
Yes.
As in what is its role?
Okay. All right. Ladies, anything from over here?
I guess we have want to put language in use, and then I guess you want to try and choose a topic maybe that would be relevant to the students, or even easy to the students, and try and say, for example, why my school is the best, and then try and build a paragraph around that thing, which is easy and all kids can relate something, like a nice playground, I love my teacher, and there's ideas around that.
All right, can you expand for me, Ashley, on easy, and that's important.
Well,
yeah.
Easy because then if I'm going to make a paragraph on, I'm going to do a paragraph on Chomsky because they would know Chomsky. If they were going to do a paragraph on the color red because we're teaching 4-year-olds, or we're going to do a paragraph on Facebook because teenagers like Facebook, or something that they can.
So is there academic level as well as?
My friend.
So it's academic plus personal. So okay, so easy right there. I'm stretching it out for a reason. So easy right there means not necessarily that it's simple for them to do and not challenging, but that it is yes, it is geared to their level. Okay, good.
So
yes.
Purposeful, I'm thinking about something that they can identify with as the starting point.
As this, okay. All right. So I think the consensus is then that if something is going to be purposeful, I have to start from a basic point with the students, as point where they are at. Something can't become purposeful for somebody if you start where they are not. Agree? Okay. Now, I'm just listening. So what has come out of that is some persons have looked at resources. I'm just putting out what you've said. Resources and material. Looked at having a topic, which means a topical focus for your lesson. Yes? And that topical focus must be contextual, stimulating, relevant. This is what you've said. Lyra has also said, but you know what? Additionally, knowledge of what to do is also important. Agreed? Yes? The student has to have an understanding of what am I doing and where is this going and how can I do it. Very important. Because if that knowledge is not there, then the student becomes isolated or alienated in the learning process or experience, okay? And then there is the issue of the level at which the content is geared. Is it an appropriate level with which the student is able to engage? Okay, good? Yes, and that's brilliant. That's brilliant stuff, ladies. That's brilliant, okay? All right. Okay. Vernon, I think it's Vernon. Sorry, Lyra, one more student coming in. Must be Vernon. Hi, Vernon. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Hush.
That's about 25 minutes.
All right, I'm going to ask you to, yes, it's on the side for me, please. All right, Lyra, Vernon has just come in. Let me pause you to see Vernon. Vernon, look at this camera for me, please, over here, and just give her a thumbs up that you're Vernon has made it, right? He's gone through quite a bit. Yes, so I'll give him a breather while we continue. Okay, so we understand the idea of purposeful. There must be purpose in what they're going to do, okay? And the purpose is not just with the task, it's with me. As the facilitator of that class, as the person guiding them through, I cannot be saying things that don't end up connecting with all that we just mentioned a while ago. Yes. Yes, if that's your goal, certainly. Because yes, I mean, it depends on your unit, and that can be a goal. What would happen is that I would want to get them to understand that the essay doesn't finish in this classroom, that there's newspaper writing, that at some point you can write in a press release, or you know what I mean, you can get right. So the idea of the purposefulness is also linked to the context, the fact that, remember, real communication. How would they use this in real life, right? A college essay, that's fine. Yes, if it's a fourth form or fifth form or anywhere from fourth up, a college essay is okay, right? Something about, you know, you have the American universities often ask for personal information or biography, you know, and students sometimes just don't know how to write it, right? So experiencing those things, and you can point them to those things so they can understand how to use the language in an authentic way. Okay, all right, let's look at contextual then. So contextual we've kind of touched on and dabbled in, so I think you should be fine with contextual. So if the language is being used in a contextual way, when I give students things to do, in fact, up to tertiary level, I still do that. Your first assignment is a contextual assignment. You have to write a blog. Okay? Well, I know I could. No, anyway, we'll discuss it at the assignment time. What I could have easily just have said to you, listen, guys, you've learned the CLT approach, get writing. Give me an essay. 500 to 600 words. I want to know everything you know about the CLT approach. Hand it to me. Call it a day. You have a wonderful life, and I have one too. Okay? Could have done that. What's the purpose of putting it in a blog format? First of all, I have to model what I teach. Okay? So, seriously, and we have to, right? So, we can't expect from our students what we are not doing ourselves. Okay? They have to see that it's real, and if we are not doing it, they don't see it as real. All right, but seriously, by putting it in the context of a blog, very often what has happened with this assignment, in fact, I had one student trace me off properly last year, right? Because she got so worked up over this blog that she couldn't see why she couldn't post it on the net, right? And we had it was online, not in the same situation, right? So it was online, and she was so verbose. Okay, and she went on and on. She said, what's the point of having an assignment at the end of the day? I cannot get to post this assignment online and allow people to. So I was trying to explain to her that we have to keep a tab on it, because, you know, we have to grade it. It has, you know, it's a university assignment, and there are a lot of issues when you put that out. If somebody sees that and decides that this is not something they'd like associated with UWI and whatever, we could go all over. Because remember, we're not in control of what you end up writing and submitting as your assignment. Okay? So eventually she calmed down. But what happened is she began to, after she left that assignment, she started a blog.
Wow.
Are you with me? For teachers. Exactly. The point is, she didn't think of it before in that way, but assignment caused her to be able to use it, right? So she said she invested so much in the assignment that she couldn't just leave it there, right? She was a grade or no grade. She could not be satisfied with that alone. She needed to carry it now online. So real life communication. Okay? All right. Task oriented. My CLT classroom must be task oriented. What does that mean? What do you think that means? Task oriented.
Find an appropriate activity to enhance the students'
Learning.
interest
Okay.
in writing the plan.
Okay. Good. Anybody else? Zero. Any idea? Yeah.
Reader activity must find an activity
Mm-hmm.
around your area of study or interest.
Mm-hmm.
An appropriate activity, yeah.
There you go. And that's a key word there.
Right, and this task must be specific. There must be getting with here. Say for instance, there are 3 steps to complete something. They give the student one and take it for granted that they're supposed to know step 2 and step 3.
Good.
So there must be directed, and given specific tasks.
So if my classroom is task oriented, the students must be doing. I can't be up there with one bag of chatting. Okay? I can't just be saying, okay, go and read this. All right, now we're going to do this and this and this. And they're always seeing me. They have to be doing. Nor can I say something like, now you know you'd use paragraph writing if you have to file a police report. And I give them that wonderful example. And then I say, okay, now we've done paragraph writing. Here's your topic. Your topic is nature. Right. Have a good time writing. Okay? Now I've just given them the example of the police report. Now I've seen it happen, right? So my idea is a great idea. Okay? And they're hearing that. Of course, they're not, internalizing the way you would. But then I tell them to write about nature, and there's no structure, there's no guidance, there's no directness about my instruction. Okay? Yes. So they want to be doing. It's task oriented. So it can't be a situation of textbook only. It can't be a situation of teacher talk only, right? It has to be a situation where they are now doing. Now we've learned this paragraph thing, and I agree that, I think Lyra, you said it, the idea about the knowledge of the paragraph, right? We have to start by perhaps giving them instances, cases, real life, where we see paragraph writing at work. Perhaps asking them to look at it and see, so which paragraph you think is best? And I would do it on the same topic. I would not want to have them all over the place. Okay? And if we start like that, then I move into. So what does a paragraph seem to be based on what you're seeing? Of course, you have to make sure now that the paragraphs you have given them are good models of paragraph writing. Or if you're not going to do that, you do a half-half. So they choose. But then again, you need to give them a sense of what a paragraph looks like. What is it? Yes, they can. Yes. The bottom line is you don't want your students searching for information that you really should have given them. Are you with me? They should know. They need to have a sense of what it is if they're going to be critiquing what is good and what is bad paragraph writing. Okay? But the task-oriented part of it is that they now need to write that paragraph in a context in my classroom, not simply for an assignment. Because we tend to do a lot of talking in the classroom, and then we say, no, your assignment is go home and write, and they're on their own, okay, sealed off from the classroom space, and they come back, and then you kill the book with the red ink, right? The book is massacred with red ink. The poor child is looking at this book and sees circle and underline and exclamation signs, right? What is this, etc. Okay, but give the child the opportunity within the classroom space to work it out. Remember that as adults, when we learn something new, it takes a while. You got to do it over and over. And it's the same thing for them. They need time, but they need time with guidance first. Yes, not time just on their own. right, so task-oriented means tasks frame your classroom. Activities, but not activities, meaning let me find 50 activities to just throw into this lesson. Purposeful, contextual activities, completely appropriate and related to the context, okay? Interactive. We know what the word means, but if the classroom must look like that, then what does it mean? Give me a visual of what it so charts could be up, good, use of charts. Good, so collaboration, yes. Good, in a guided way, yes, definitely. And of course, those questions and answers again need to be thought out. You can't predict everything in the classroom, but you certainly need to think about it. Because sometimes, exactly, I was just gonna say, sometimes if you don't focus on what it is I aim to get out of a question answer session, they will just lead you totally. By the time you finish, you realize, hold on here, half all gone, and where am I? Okay, what am I doing? Role playing, yes. Yes. So what do you realize with the interactive nature of a classroom? It has them doing what?
Communicate.
Yes, very good, Lyra, as well. Yes. So, and it has them communicating. They have to communicate, and it's, as you all said, it's teacher, student to student, student to teacher, teacher to student, ongoing. Student and text, text and student, constantly ongoing. Okay. All right. Meaning focused. That one is kind of self-explanatory, but let's make sure everybody's on the same page. Meaning focused. If a classroom is meaning focused, what does that mean? Excellent. That's it. Yes? It's very important. It is so easy for us because we already have the knowledge, right? That we take so much for granted and we just throw out things. But the idea is, remember, they're learning it from scratch. And even if they aren't, you need to scaffold them. Yes? So they need to be taken through bit by bit, process by process. You can't just throw them in to swim and you haven't taught them how to swim in that particular pool or in that type of water, and we could go on. Okay? So meaning focused is that I am so centered on my topic that every activity I do, and I'm saying this, I'm going to tell you exactly what comes to my mind as I'm saying this. Just based on a lesson I saw. If I've decided that I am going to teach using the paragraph, let's use the paragraph writing. What was her topic? If I'm going to teach something to do with schooling activities, my theme is focused on school life. Okay, let's say my theme is focused on school life. And my introductory activity, or some people call it icebreaker, but my introductory activity is going to be that students are going to pick up different tools off my desk and tell me the use of each of the tools. Everybody with me to point? And I say, okay, so what was the point of that activity? Where are you going with that activity? No man. It's just to lighten up the class and just to, yes, right? No, what she wants to do is good. Yes, she wants to use it as a kind of icebreaker situation. What she wants to do is allow the students to relax and not come with, some of them can be very intense when they know it's class time. They just want you to, especially if they're used to traditional thing, they just want whatever you're going to give them, just give them and let them go on, right? But the point is that everything you do from the start of that class to the end must be focused on your topic. Yes. Okay, must be focused on your topic. Is that clear? So you can't have an introductory activity that is completely different from or unrelated to, yes, the topic of focus. All right, instruction is centered on communicative competence. So if my instruction is on communicative competence, I cannot give a test saying, what is a noun? Please put the noun in the correct place for these sentences. And then every sentence is completely different. Joy, no, underline the noun. Joy went to the supermarket. 1. Number 2, put the DVD down. Underline the noun. Number 3, paint the wall yellow. Are those sentences related in any way? No. What in that situation is communicative? Yes. Of course. Yes. Yes. Nowadays. Yes. Yes. And that's because people are literally learning, are acquiring new positions on language. Really, if I have 10 sentences, it's hard work, teachers. I do it, so I know. It's hard work. It's much easier to just sit down and come up with 10 sentences that are arbitrary, or to go on the net and copy paste. That's easier, right? But the reality is there's a scaffolding taking place when those sentences are connected. There's meaning being produced through those sentences. So when I say Joy went to the supermarket, my second sentence is likely to start, she bought such and such. She decided she didn't want orange juice anymore. So in other words, it is telling you something at the end. They're connecting their sentences. Precisely. So much is taking place, brain activity, that is not just centered on a situation of let me just find the noun and identify the noun. I'm also looking at how the noun is being used in the sentence. And by the time I'm finished, because it has stimulated my interest, because it's going somewhere, yes, it's purposeful, it's going somewhere, I can then use that noun much better or much faster than a student who is just doing it arbitrarily. Are you with me? So that's communicative competence. Communicative competence is when the task that I'm dealing with, task that I'm looking at, is framed by the features of communication. It looks like a communicative event. Remember that diagram? The sender, the message, the text, the receiver. Okay? And of course the feedback, etc. Yes? No, they're not.
So, in other words, maybe that's important in the beginning stage. Because in junior, secondary level, you need to.
No communication and AC.
Hold on, sorry. Sorry, ladies. Is this Mobe?
Who is that?
Hello? Are you able to hear me? Okay, well, we can hear everything you're saying. We can hear you here. Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm not able to hear you though. I can hear somebody else talking in the background, but I can't hear you.
Okay. All right. I thought you couldn't hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay. So
I'm sorry to be late.
Okay. All right. So this is. Let me just try to. Is this Carrie?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Carrie. So this is the class that's here in Mona.
Okay.
Right. And there's somebody else. I'm wondering if I've lost her because I can't find her now. Lyra is also supposed to be here.
I'm here and I'm seeing her.
Are you seeing me? You're not seeing me.
I'm seeing you. I'm seeing Carrie also.
Oh, okay. I get what is happening. So when you all speak, then you come to the forefront of our screen. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's the thing. So if you want to come to the forefront of the screen, please speak. Okay, both of you. And if yes, it's a bit unfortunate because it would have been great to be able to see you without you having to speak. But that's what's gonna happen for now. I might just call on you. Now that I know that Carrie's there, I might just call on you from time to time, as I've been doing with Lyra. Okay. I've lost my you were saying something very important. Yeah.
I agree. I think it's also important for all. I mean, I think that's important in the beginning. Well, GSAT papers and things like that. They need to be able to get to a point where
have a setup like this. No, it depends on because there's only one mic.
Sorry, I'm trying to turn off the volume because I can hear everything there and it's kind of disturbing me.
No?
Yes, we can hear everything there.
All right. If you maybe could position the mic maybe in the middle of the room or somewhere where everybody could be audible?
That's actually happened already. Is it that you're not hearing?
I'm not hearing the question that they're asking.
Oh, I'm not sure. I'd have to get a technician because we have St. Lucia on the line as well, and we've been having the class for an hour like that, and there have been no problems here with that. She's been
Okay.
I can hear very well.
Yes, she's able to hear quite well. So I'm not sure that there's anything I can do from my end. Understood?
Yes. Okay. I'm hearing you well. I'm just not hearing what your question is.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you right now.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
I can't control the mic at all based on where it is. I don't have any control over the mic.
Okay.
What I'll try to do for this session until we can work it out is that I will give a sense of what they say, yeah? So that you can stay abreast of everything. And of course, I'll try to point the camera in that direction when they're speaking.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, yes. So you wanted to respond as well?
If they underline the require.
Yes.
Because if you look at paragraph writing that we just spoke about, the ideas of the flow. Based on the topic sentence and the main idea, everything has to flow. So probably if we start from this scaffolding area, then we will help our primary children from our youth probably, or early childhood, talk about the color red, and then they say what red is used to do, red blood. So we're actually building up words into sentences and sentences in the paragraph, let it flow. So they will know which paragraph to come second.
Yeah,
right.
No, and that's why I said I think that approach I can understand why you do in the beginning in a primary level. However, GSAT.
But GSAT is actually, okay, so the truth is, and we're going to get political, that's the reality. So this is my personal opinion, in case UWI wants to sue me. But seriously now, with each change of government, we have many changes that are made because of political reasons. Now, the GSAT is based on an integrated approach. That is how they're supposed to be teaching language. The persons that have created the primary curriculum are the persons who have written the scores. Okay? So the concept of contextual learning of communicative language teaching totally frames the primary curriculum. One, it frames the Rose curriculum, which is grade 7 to 9, secondary. And it also ought to, because again, the same persons who promote the idea and who originally came up with a lot of this thinking, not in terms of the actual thoughts, the theories, but in terms of putting them into policy and courses, also work on the CXC committee. And those communicative studies as well, not communicative studies, communication studies, that's right? Right. For KIP, same idea. So the concept is, Ashley, coming to you, that this is how we're supposed to teach. The syllabi are set up in such a way that they're supposed to reflect a communicative way of teaching for language. The issue is, one, teachers are not supported with resources and materials, which is we'll go into later in the course. And two, teachers are not trained in that way. Okay? Now, if you want to start anything, you must start with teachers, because the training of the teachers will determine the way in which the methodology takes place in the classroom. So it doesn't make sense to come up with a grand policy and syllabus and all of these nice things if at the end of the day, the orientation of the persons teaching in the classroom is not in any way lining up with it. Now, that's the issue. The issue is that I can say off the bat, 65% of our classrooms do not follow this orientation, do not follow this way of teaching. Not because the teachers don't want to, the teachers have simply not been exposed to it. Because when you send out a syllabus, right, if you check any of those, the GSAT, the grade 7 to 9, the CAPE, the CXC, all of this is going to find itself inserted in the rational, in the objectives, you'll see them. You will not see what I'm giving you in this way, but you'll see it. But who is going to understand how to frame their classrooms based on that unless it is explained to the teacher? Okay? Which is a part of the problem. Okay? 1 second. Carrie, let me just make sure you're with us, Carrie. Did you hear what Ashley was asking at all? Were you able to hear what Ashley was asking?
No, I'm just picking up that there seems to be some issue with the GSAT and it's
Okay, well, yes, there are lots of issues, but no, what she was saying, she was really starting out by saying that the orientation of which I spoke with communicative competence, and you're just kind of coming in, so there will be gaps, right? She was just saying that she's not sure that this follows through for all levels of learning, but perhaps follows through at the beginning. And I'm saying it ought to follow through at all levels, from primary straight through, because of the way in which the various curriculum guides were created. Okay, so that's what you're hearing. There are issues with the GSAT, but we haven't gone there yet. we haven't done them. Okay, Sonia wanted to say something, and then I'll go back to Ashley. You were gonna say something.
Thinking about it. I'm not a trained teacher, but being in communication, I understand some concepts.
Yes.
I haven't gone through school.
Yes.
What I've noticed is that students doing college English or communication studies.
Yes.
I find that I understand what they're trying to say to me, but a lot of the writing, because I'm a writer,
yes,
is void of structure.
Yeah.
Void of structure. So the grammar, it's out of what I understand what they're saying, and I'm like, okay, I have to say this. And they speak nicely, but when you give them the answers, yes, some will blow you.
Yeah.
And when you have to put it on paper, you see what you understand.
Okay. Okay. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. It's not their mother tongue.
But I'm thinking now, based on what I'm being taught here, is communicating language.
All right. So Carrie,
we are understanding what they're saying, but still at the same time,
yes,
they've lost the grammar, they've lost the structure somewhere along the way.
Okay. All right, Lyra, is everything okay? Just checking that you're still with us.
Yes,
all right.
But
yes.
Are y'all? Let me just ask: are y'all on the after instructional communicative competence? Are y'all past that? Because I'm not seeing it on my screen.
No, we haven't. We're actually still on it. We haven't managed to pass it yet, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Ironing it out. Yes. All right. Carrie, sorry, I'm coming. Actually, Carrie, are you able to hear Lyra when she speaks?
I heard her. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to move back to Ashley. What Sonia is saying is that she finds that students generally are able to explain what they mean orally, and in their writing, she can generally understand. She has a gist of she can get a gist of what they're saying, but she finds that the way that they write is problematic, and their use of expression, their written expression, is to use a nice word, deplorable. And so she's looking at that in conjunction with what we have been saying about, we were looking at paragraph writing and being communicatively competent. Okay, I'm gonna move to Ashley and then we'll continue.
Instruction is not necessarily
yes, I got that.
I mean, not necessarily that.
It's a text,
but it's a text.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's unfortunately we have to compare it to the text. So
yes.
How do you do that? If they're only going to learn in this, then how do they do a test where it's random and there are, I mean, yes, there's a main questions, but there are lots of identify, the incorrect word or whatever words of noun.
Okay.
All right. That's one part, and then the other one.
Wait, pause. Okay. Just because I have to deal with the dynamics of this, and I don't want anybody feeling left out. So, Carrie, what Ashley is saying is, at the end of the day, when we do all of this lovely, we have this lovely pedagogy, this methodological approach, CLT, communicative language teaching, When the students get to do their tests, they get it in a very traditional way anyway. So how do we prepare them for that? And is it feasible? So I'll answer that first, and then I'll go back to her question. All right. So what research has proven, and when I'm able, now that we're gelling a little better, you'll start getting some articles to read. Research has proven that if they learn this way, they can handle both. Okay? What happens is when they only learn the traditional way, and you change the question, you change the context, you change the situation, they can't manage. They're not sure what to do because they haven't been in a position outside of this type of question. Okay? When you teach them contextually and you utilize all of these things, it's not that you're not teaching them things like that. So for an exam student, whether it's GSAT, CXC, you know, have other types of exams in the middle of the secondary years, or at the tertiary level, you can still teach them what, you know, if a question says this is how you're to interpret. You're still teaching those skills. What it is, though, is that my class itself is framed within a context, and I'm teaching them to use the language. So it's not that I stop teaching them everything to do with that. It's that they are more rounded, more able to handle language when I teach them this way. When I go to traditional, they're not. And actually, some of the questions, which is why we're so mixed up and we need to sort ourselves out, because some of the questions on GSAT and on CXC will come with a communicative orientation when nobody has really stipulated to the teacher that this is possible, right? And you use the word actually random, and it's unfortunate, but it's true, right? My daughter's about to do GSAT, and I'm still trying to figure out how do I know exactly what's coming on this exam again, right? Because you have past papers, but the fact of the matter, Vernon, is just like mind you, 6 years been around a much longer time, right? But the fact of the matter is I should be able to teach a student without having to look at past paper questions if you have directed me accordingly. If I've been well directed, well instructed, if I have the correct content, I should be able to teach that student and feel confident that when that student gets into the exam, even if I've never seen a past paper, based on how you've set up your system, they are fine. If I rely on past paper questions only, it frustrates the students as well, because, which is what I think Ashley is talking about. These students end up, what's happening now? You go to extra classes, you go through, you swat some stuff, are you with me? And some students cannot operate like that. They simply cannot. They fail the exam, they're kept back, and the cycle continues. Are you with me? So not all students are good at swatting. Okay? On top of that, we're going to have items on that exam, Vernon. I promise you, and you should know, we're going to have items on that exam that are not anywhere into the topic categories that suddenly have come out of nowhere. If I start on the math, I go crazy, right? Just the math alone.
For the English, the question.
Well, the English is much easier. Yes. Right. Yes. Right. So, but what I'm saying is, so at the end of the day, but what I'm saying is, Ron, at the end of the day, if this right. Precisely. Exactly. Okay. So, Kerry, Lyra, what the bottom line is, what is happening in this room is that the bottom line is looking at tests, and I think everybody is in agreement with the fact that tests don't often reflect a student-centered approach. Yes, even though teachers are encouraged to teach in that way. And I think that's the bottom line. And I don't think it is, I think we have to be careful, and we are cognizant of it. I mean, they'll turn to us for help, the ministry that is, they'll turn to us for help, but at the end of the day, very often sometimes what is put in place is contradictory to the help that they've asked for, the advice that they've been given. But we have to realize in all the Caribbean societies that politics speaks heavily, right? We have to realize that unfortunately when some parties go out and others come in, different policies, different people, and then we go all over again. Lyra, in St. Lucia, what exam do you do in St. Lucia?
Well, they do common entrance. I think that's what you all had before the GSAT.
So maybe you guys need to call us. Give us a call and tell us you so we can change that. Because I think our entrance is much better than this, by the way. All right. Okay, let's move from this because we don't have a lot of time. The time has run off pretty quickly, which is good in a sense. It means that we're interacting. Continue with the features of the CLT classroom. The use of the mother tongue, and this is important, the use of the mother tongue is acceptable where appropriate and necessary. I want that to sink in. Because traditionally, that's not what we've been taught. Okay, and of course, mother tongue is now replacing broken English, which is what the students have been taught. Yes? Any form of Creole usually seen not as the language in itself, but as broken English. All right, exactly. I do give thanks for the linguists. Dorma is saying, praise the Lord for the linguists. we have to give them credence. They have set that they've set that up nicely for us and really have explained it and through research as well. So the use of the mother tongue is acceptable, but you notice that end phrase there, where appropriate and necessary. Okay, so in other words, if you go into a Spanish or French class, I know when I was doing French, I couldn't walk into the classroom and be speaking English as though, you know, I didn't recognize where I was. But if there was a situation where I couldn't explain myself in French or I needed help, I could certainly revert to using English. Okay, a number of our students, I wish I could explain it sometimes. I don't think I explain it in the best way possible, but a number of our students, when you step up in front of a class, if you hear a Chinese person speaking, no, and you just think of staring at, well, that's if any of you know Chinese? Anybody knows Chinese? Okay. Okay, so nobody knows Chinese, but the point is if you had somebody in here coming up, right, and right? And that's not Chinese, right? But you get what I'm saying? You're going to be staring at this person saying, okay, you know, let's work off some facial expression and body language here. Let's try to surmise what you're saying. No, as much as I laugh at it, I want you to know that a number of our students sit down in that situation. While your mouth is moving, you have left them from the second or so word, and they're trying to pull words out of what you're saying because they can't manage, and you're just chatting as though this thing is natural and normal. Okay, so we have to have a space for the mother tongue if the student is not at all competent in the use of the English language, and we have to not look down on that, right? And we have to definitely have to not call it broken English, or we should not be saying, please speak properly, okay? Which is our tendency, okay? Right? No, because it's traditional. That's how I certainly was brought up. You don't dare to use Jamaican Creole in the house. You mad? Right? I went through all of this for you to come and use Jamaican Creole. That's how I grew up. But the fact of the matter is, it's derogatory to do that. It's putting down the speaker. And if you put down the language of the speaker, you're automatically putting down the speaker, okay? So use of authentic materials is another feature. And authentic materials refer to those materials we find in the real world. Radio, yes, the slangs, yes, okay.
Why broadcast in this language?
Yes.
An article written by
Devonish.
And I was teaching literary devices and part of speech and those kinds of things. I took it to the class and told them to identify some of the figures of speech, parts of speech, and what does that mean in that. And it became like a talking piece in the class. Turn up to the bono.
Okay.
Essay. Turn up to the bono.
Oh wow.
And then, you know, so
yes. The authentic material.
The authentic material.
Yes.
That we can identify with them.
Yes. CLT. Yes, you get that. Yes, okay. All right. Okay, so yes, you see radio, TV, newspaper, diaries. You can utilize poetry, creative works. Ask them to put things in, you know, like you'll have little magazines, comic strips. The point is, how is language used in real life? how do we use language in real life? And however it is used in real life, the material that houses the language, we carry that material into the classroom. Clear? Yes.
Agriculture. Yes. So I was teaching somewhere and other was there and I started to ask questions. And I made a connection to the one of the students.
Great. Yes.
And there was an outburst.
Of course.
Right.
Yes.
So I suppose I'm thinking of material.
Yes.
Material might be for a teacher in that kind of situation more than grade school.
Yeah, well, and you can shift the content because it could be a news item on, and you know that is big now on the agricultural situation. Yeah, and you could also look at instructional. I'm tired. Instructional manuals where you have how to set up a fertilizer plant or how to and they have to sequence information. Yes, right. Yes. So that would be authentic material, and that's a good point, Ronan, because I think what that shows us, which is important, everybody, is that your authentic materials will be based on your students and their context, and you have to understand that. So even when you come out, I said to my students all the time, when you complete a program, the program is 20% of where your journey will end up. If you think about it, this is giving you a kind of foundation, principles. Yes, what really hones that and nurtures that is the experience. Because in your classroom, it will be different from your classroom, it will be different from mine. And so every single thing you get here in principle, you can use and adapt, but you can't use every single activity. And you can't use it. Are you with me? Every single example can't be used in every single situation, but the principles remain true. Okay? All right. Quickly, sense of audience.
I'll have an experience.
Okay, go ahead.
So, a cousin of mine invited me to come and speak with the young people at the church on Friday afternoon, Friday evening. So I'm preparing young people in high school and so on. When I went to the community around Rockport, so when I went, so what would you like to be when you grow up? It's like I was so in a different world. They couldn't identify, they couldn't understand. So what is touching me? Me want to be a Babylon. Police officer comes out the audience and context when I recognize now I had to switch quickly. So
of course.
It's good that I understand different situations and different contexts. I was like, it was like I'm in a strange place. So like the stush woman.
Yes.
So me for sure them say I'm a stush woman. I understand pretty well. They want to be a Babylon.
Yeah.
Good. But guess what? The right word is police. And that felt so strange because I am going to speak with teenagers and young people and career options. Right. So when I went, I had to switch now to suit the audience to whom I'd be delivering. And even though I saw that it was a younger audience, yes, it's a younger audience within a particular context. I was so frightened. But then again, it comes back to who we are in society because it's like, okay, I thought that they went to school, so what is happening in their classroom?
And I think that's a good point. I think which is why it's important for us to never and never to think that we have my grandmother would say we have a river.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
A river. Yes. Never to think that. In other words, no matter how much we know, right? That's why you must know your stuff too. Right? Because no matter how much you know, you have to be able to, and switch in such a way that you're not coming across as being demeaning.
Yes.
And that's it, because you lose whichever audience it is. If you're not properly connecting with them, you lose them in terms of a message. Okay. All right. So let's continue. Carrie, is everything good? Are you hearing?
I'm hearing.
Okay. So grammar is what? Incorporated into interaction and context. And I think we've discussed that to a great extent. So you don't just give grammar elements by themselves. All right. So yes, as Ashley says, on the CXC multiple choice, they will get the grammar to insert. But again, watch the items closely. Very often, those items are couched within a slight context, right? And if they're, for example, you'll notice there are some items on the CSEC paper and it comes out in the grade 4 literacy and it also comes up in GSAT, where the students have to look at, identify or choose a particular word based on the sentence. Now, sometimes the denotative value of the meaning of that word, the dictionary definition of that word, is not what they're looking for based on the sentence. If the student doesn't understand different contexts in which the word is used, then the connotative value, which is what they need, the connotative meaning is missed. And the student says, well, no, it must be this, because remember, they're going to put that quote-unquote trickified answer there, right? They're going to put that answer there that's easiest to find, okay? And that would likely be that dictionary definition. The student puts it, they get it wrong, and we continue, okay? So grammar is incorporated into interaction and context. And the truth is, if a student, think of yourselves, I think if I can look at everybody in the room and in Mobe and St. Lucia, most of us would have learned grammar incidentally, not necessarily intentionally. Yeah, you were brought up. Most of us. I don't know if it applies for everybody, but you were. In other words, you're brought up hearing it. You have to use it as punishment if you don't use it, right? And you're taught that this is the way. Yes, there are certain things I know for sure that there are certain things, and I've been teaching. This is 18 years now. I believe it or not. And there are certain things. Stop it. So there are certain things, seriously, that when I started teaching, I had no clue why I used that. So if a student asked me, so what is the function of that word? I don't know, but I know that's the word I'm supposed to use. That's the right word. And it used to bother me so much that I'm teaching them and I keep saying something like, no, but this is the right one. Until I said, no, man, that cannot work anymore. I cannot be said. I have to now have a way to show them why is it that I am using this word, okay? And so that speaks to incorporating it. So sometimes for those of us who just, it comes out naturally, we can go through those multiple choice items and fill in and fill in and fill in, even if we may not be able to tell the reason why yes, but that's the level we really want to get the students to, that they're so fluent in the language that, you know, certain things, they don't stop to try to figure out THEIR and THERE. They're not stumped over that. That's easy, okay? And we could go on to other words like that, okay? The use of other words like that. All right, let's look at the second to last point. Assessment should reflect interaction, okay? So, and we're gonna spend a whole half unit on assessment only. It's very important because guess what? If we do all of this teaching and set up these lovely lesson plans, go through all this great methodology focused on CLT teaching, come to assessment and say, go home and write an essay, we're going back to square one, okay? If you're gonna have to go home and write an essay, then there has to be a checklist, or there has to be an instruction that's guiding you through that essay, or we're working in groups. So you start the essay as a draft, and then when you come to class the next session, we're gonna be working in this group to try and deal with the draft of writing that you prepared. Are you with me? It's going somewhere that the student is learning from it, but there must be an audience, there must be a context, and we could go on and on. Okay? Again, if in the real world they are required to do certain things without a context, it won't affect them. It doesn't affect them. The fact is, again, when you do it in the larger way, remember what we said about the CLT being an umbrella. When you provide that umbrella, I can do any of the things that might come under that. But if you only provide what comes under it, I can't cover everything. Okay? All right. As we go through, I'm hoping that you will all see more of it fleshed out. All right. And finally, the classroom is brought into the community, and the community is brought into the classroom. Okay? Very important. Now, it doesn't literally mean that every class I have, I run down to Papine or run up to Papine, okay, and have a class under a nice tree in Papine. Papine, by the way, those from Mobe and those from St. Lucia is right up the road from the Mona campus, right? And the market is there, and the whole community is there, etc. And we have an outreach program there. So it doesn't mean that I literally do that, though I can sometimes, yeah? But it means that I cause the society to be brought into my classroom through whatever I'm discussing, whatever my focus is, the materials I take in, the assessment I give them, the homework I give them, etc., and vice versa. I cause them to be able to relate with aspects of the community as well. Okay? Clear?
Yes.
Any questions so far, Mobe? Harry?
Yeah, it's one stupid question.
It's not stupid. Go ahead.
What's CLT?
Okay. Well, remember I told you when you come in now, you're going to come with some gaps. So what I'll do is send you all the information as soon as we get out of here. But CLT is a communicative language teaching approach that looks at the use and function of language as opposed to language as structure.
Okay.
It's not, we don't teach the children to know about language. We teach the children to use language in a context.
Okay.
Does that clarify?
Yes, I think I got this thing for communicative.
Okay. All right. Lyra, are we good to go?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're going to just run through. We're supposed to be finishing usually we finish by 6:30, 6:40. But that's when we start at 4. But I'll finish in another 10 minutes. Let's just finish this up, and then what you'll do is use the lesson plan that I sent you all, and Kerry, you'll get yours shortly. You'll do that as the assignment for the next class instead of doing it in class itself. All right, so teaching language in a functional way, what does it mean? Just trying to pull in everything that we've been saying. Teaching language means focusing less on rules of grammar and more on teaching communication. Yes. Tell me what the danger is.
For example,
yes.
They have been marked for
yes.
Content expression.
Organization mechanics.
So the expression.
But we're not saying we don't teach it. We're not saying not to teach it.
Right. The challenge that I think is that generalized. The challenge that Jamaican students have is that they are not aware of the rules of grammar. For example, a lot of the schools that I think many schools now are encouraging students to buy grammar books. But when I was growing up, I did comprehension. I did that incidentally. So the students really come to high school not really learn rules of grammar.
Precisely. And what I'm going to suggest for Vernon is that they do get all of that grammar teaching in primary school. Most of the times they do. That's the problem we're having. The research shows it. Most of the times the teachers do teach. This is a noun, this is a verb, this is subject verb. The teaching has become an issue, which is why we're here. And remember this CLT approach is long before the 21st century. But what I'm saying is, understand what I'm saying, okay? The traditional approach started off by seeing grammar as the focus. It is essential to language, speaking or language use. You must know the rules of grammar. This is not saying you must not know the rules of grammar. This is saying that all the focus we have placed on the structure of language, research shows it across the world. I can send you the document. Across the world, it has proven to be the case that when you focus on the structure of language, the student is no better off. It does not end up making them competent to use the language. They may know about the language. And why I'm saying it happens in primary school is because if you check a number of primary school teachers, you're in the system. That's what they will they're saying, but I've taught them. I've taught them the noun, I've taught them the verb, I've taught them the structure. So why are they not writing it?
For example, I remember this parent called me frantically because although I don't teach Spanish for the ministry, I do it on my own. I presented at my church, and this lady had on bottom line. She asked me to help her child. This child was in 3rd form, about 3 weeks into the exam. She was having problems with actually everything. To be, not to be, and whatever. So she called me and said, my first approach with her was to get her talking. And then she got another boy. And then they were so amazed. They said, wait, this is not how we learn it in class. So I get them to talk the language, that they feel relaxed, talking about themselves. And they were first concerned about, I don't know these words. So actually, while talking to them, my thing was coming back. So I sort of use context based on what they know, building up their vocabulary. Not have to go to the dictionary every minute, talking about themselves. And it seems so it's about the flow of the woman going to the supermarket and buying this and that. So by the end, the very first session, 1 hour, which actually went over like 2 hours, they had a lot of vocabulary, not sticking to grammar. I remember one girl, she came, what about this star of Miss Sarah? I can't understand it. So I just used it in a concept of social, functional, purposeful way. And guess what? She got an A. Wow. And she wasn't recommended to do it at her school.
Yes, we know those situations. Yes.
So she came back to me. And I helped her, and in 4th form, she took it and got a 1 in Spanish. She wanted me to help her with French, but I told her, look at the world.
And stop. Yeah, no, that's not my forte.
So it goes back to the approach, communicative way of learning is like we talking here now. I mean, we learn a lot from each other while talking, and we are not so much thinking of the verbosity of our language usage, whether our verb or whatever, we just talk. And even if we slip up, we kind of understand what we are saying to each other.
So what I wanted to make clear, and this is, I'm used to this because this is what usually happens when the approach is introduced, right? What I'm saying is, and right now I'm teaching a volunteer CSEC class, an inner city group, and I don't think I've never encountered any group that is as difficult to teach, not because they're, but academically just where they are, okay? Anything I teach, certainly, it means I'm using it, okay? I don't say what I don't use. But, so that's why I'm telling you, grammar is taught. So you teach grammar. It's just that my way of teaching grammar is no longer placed within, couched within rigid structures of exercises. And we're going to look more at it next week. I place it within a context. I get them to understand. So if they understand the use of the word, after that I can tell them what the word is. When I tell them what the word is first, or what part of speech, or what, and it depends on your class, right? You have to decide what you're going to do first with them based on where they are. What I'm saying is that teaching them the structure only does not make them competent users of the language. And so what this is saying, it doesn't say you don't teach it. Look at what it says. It focuses less on rules and more on communication. It doesn't say it leaves it out. It can't leave it out because we can't learn, we can't use it unless we understand it. But it's cyclical. It's dependent on each other. Yes, sure.
One is like interpersonal. I thought English. One is what I want her to language in particular. That was one of my interest in coming here. But I mean, this is very interesting, but this doesn't seem like this is going to teach me how to teach
language.
Yes. This doesn't seem like this is going to give me the tools of how to teach grammar, what noun to use when and what verb.
No, it's not going to teach you. This is what
my question is.
Yes.
So no, you can end it with first with that.
No, all right. Well, understand it first of all, because orientation is methodology. So I wouldn't say it's not going to teach that. I don't believe in absolutes like that. In order to teach you methodology, I must touch content, right? So as we go through, this is a second session. So you're being introduced to the theoretical principles underlying the course. We haven't touched the content, right? So what I'm saying is grammar will come up, writing comes up. When you look through the course outline, you see it. Oral communication, meaning how we discuss things in class and the tasks that we give. So all areas of the language arts mode will come up. Yes? Can I tell you that I'm going to stop to teach you the technical aspects of language? No, the course is not.
Or how to teach that. That's okay.
You will get into how to teach it, but I can't promise you that the specific area of content you want to learn how to teach will necessarily. I mean, you can tell me and we can look at it, but I can't possibly cover. We can't possibly cover, even in the programs a year, right? We can't possibly cover every aspect of content. The idea is, as I said to Bernard at the start, the idea is the principles are to be used to teach. Yeah?
So can I ask a question? I don't know. Just college, is that taught?
Is what taught?
Is the linguistics of teach grammar, is that taught?
It depends on the teacher's college.
Or undergrad?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Which is how she's sounding. The Masters in English Language will not focus on educational methodology. Yes, we'll focus on content, but so I'm not. I think you're in the middle of two worlds.
Right. Well, that's fine. But
yeah.
About me, my real question really is in terms of so you're talking about teaching language, focusing on more on teaching. My question is, do you think, this is an open-ended question, do you think that our teachers, right, when they leave either teachers college or
now
UE, do you think that they have been taught? Do you think they've been taught how to teach grammar? In other words, do you think that they have a solid base in that?
Yes. Yes. In the last 20 years, this orientation has been around for at least 20 years.
Because that confidence is very important.
But actually,
if you feel like you're very strong in that, then it's easy to let go of, okay, well, now we're going to go now. Instead, let's talk about.
Okay, but what you have to understand is this, right? Which is why I said any course of certification, any program of certification is only 20% of the person's journey. I really believe that. But what I'm saying is, different individuals will have different levels of exposure, right? So as Verna was saying a while ago, you do have courses of languages, modern languages, and linguistics and philosophy that deal specifically with the teaching of English, right? And not. Let me not say the teaching of English, with the English language, the structure of the English language. Linguistics does it heavily. Now, the teachers that we train here in our undergrad, this is not considered an undergrad program, clearly. In the undergrad program, the teachers we train have to do those courses. The linguistics, the language and structure, and then they come to this, right? So the assumption would be, when you get to DPED stage, the assumption is that you have some kind of grounding somewhere. Right? Now, that may or may not be the case because we have different profiles. So what I'm saying to you is, at the end of the day, you want to leave feeling as though you've achieved what you set out to achieve in your aim for coming to the course. So the only way that's going to be facilitated, if you're not seeing it on the outline, is through dialogue.
Right, but it was really about me. The question was really a wider question.
Right, I get that.
In terms of teaching, in terms of generally, do we feel as a country that we have equipped our teachers?
Not everybody that's out there.
Then go in and I understand how to use there and there.
Yeah.
If I'm comfortable with that, then I can teach that quite comfortably. But that is where I'm wondering, that is where the gap is and why our students are not grasping.
And there's a gap even before we reach teacher training. There's a gap with the persons who come in.
And who they are being taught by themselves, or with what they have learned.
Cycle continues. Yes, cycle continues. No, it's true. And there's a gap because we have refused to.
That gap? My interest is how to close that gap.
Yes, and that's not easily done. I think we're trying. Right. That's what I mean. As I said, this orientation has been around for 20 years in this university. I can attest to that much. What I'm saying, a number of teachers are out there who have not been a part of it. The government did set up. Not sure if any of you knew about it, but the government did set up an initial stage about 10 years ago, or a little bit more, where they actually paid for teachers to be trained by us. Right? They paid the teachers. A lot of teachers wasted that. Seriously. So in other words, they just free education, government is paying for me, leave, got excited. Some of them didn't finish the program. And so I think what everybody was hoping that would come out of it, which is why I hesitate in the sense that I'm saying at some point there's also personality and individuals that are involved in this, yeah. And a lot of people get into teaching not because they want to teach, and that's also an issue. Yes, if I do this B.Ed, then I can get into this next season, and we go on. So we're far from there. We need to get there, but our politics doesn't help either. Okay. All right. Let me try to recap just so we can finish. So what it's saying is when the CLT approach is used, everybody, language is developed in context with others involved as senders and receivers of oral and written forms of communication. When there's interaction in the classroom, the activities are more purposeful and you utilize authentic materials which come from outside the classroom. All right. So I'm not going to go into, let me just show you where we're going next. Okay. These are the questions that I certainly want you to have an understanding of what the CLT approach is by the next class, right? I want you to understand how it can be used, and we'll be doing that throughout the entire course in the different areas, okay? We'll be looking at how it can be used. I wanted to touch the first assignment today. I might not be able to, so I'll probably just set up something so that everybody can respond to it when they've had a chance to read through the assignment and give me their questions. And we'll use the forum to discuss the outline as well. Now, there's one more issue, so I'm just going to close off on this and then discuss one quick issue for 2 minutes, and then I'll free you up, okay? So what I want you to understand is that there are two modes that are accepted as teaching language. Teaching it as structure and teaching it as function. Structure does not look at function. Function looks at both structure and function. And that's the reason why that approach has been taken. Okay? And central to that function, the way that we flesh out the function is by utilizing the CLT approach and looking at the features of it and trying to establish classrooms that utilize and reflect those features. Okay? Also, remember, this is just one part of your engaging with the topic, right? You need to also start reading, which hopefully I can set up soon. So I'm closing off on that. Let me ask Lyra or Carrie if there are any questions asked from the group here, and then we close off so I can quickly just address one issue. Carrie?
No. I didn't get a course outline.
Yes, your name just appeared on my list today. So you'll get everything by this evening. By tonight, you'll get everything.
Oh, okay.
And I'll also, I will also, let me just give you my email address right now.
Okay, go ahead.
Even though it will be on the outline. AISHA, Aisha, AISHA _
Yes.
Spencer, SPENCER,
yes,
@yahoo.com.
Okay.
And the other one is the same name, AISHA .Spencer, SPENCR 02
Yes.
@uemona.edu.jm.
Okay.
Now, if it's an emergency and you need to get me soon, you use the Yahoo, because that comes to my phone. I do not allow work email to come to my phone. I've got to live. All right. All right. And Lyra, you're good with the course outline, right? I think that's what Ashley had sent to you earlier.
Yeah. No, actually, I didn't get the course outline.
Oh, okay. Ashley says she sent it now, but you got my email address.
Yes, I got it. Yeah.
Let me give you my number, and I'm doing it for this group because it's a small group. I don't do this as practice. But let's go. So it's 472. So the area code would be 876 472 8822. I'm on WhatsApp. That's usually how my students find me.
Okay.
Right? So feel free to send a message at that point. It doesn't matter when you send a message because I will only look at it at a certain point anyway, right? So feel free to send a message, and that's just to facilitate quick communication. If you can't get to me via email, you can't get to me any other way, just send me a WhatsApp and I will answer you as soon as I see the message. Okay? All right. There's a system called RVLE. Some persons know it, some persons don't know it. it's an online system and it sets up a container for the course. Now I'm seeing the container on my site when I go in, but none of you actually, yes, nobody's on it. And so I've asked Miss Mills, thank you. I've asked Miss Mills to look into that and to try and set it. It makes life so much easier for all of us because all the documents related to the unit are placed under that unit. So you just kind of go through everything that way. It also has a discussion forum for you to discuss, put up questions so that, you know, we can just move with time very quickly. All right, so I'm trying to work that out. Before all sessions, you will get emails from me with regard to what we're going to be doing in the session and what items or, you know, documents, whatever it is you will need for the session, you'll get prior to the session, which could include the morning of the session. Okay? All right, any questions here? You should see them all packing up and running away. You know, they're just, you know, like, not on manners. Okay. So yes, the issue with the reading materials, as I said, is that when I start sending them via email, they just go all over the place with you guys. I mean, you can print them, but the idea would not be to have to print everything. On the RVLE, it organizes it under the unit, so it makes it much easier for you to go and you revise when you want to. You look at the content, that kind of thing. So going forward, what I'm going to do is check on that situation. I will email you, I'll communicate with you what is to happen with that situation. The lesson plan that you were asked that you were sent, I'm going to give you directive as to how to prepare that for the next class. Okay? All right? Yes? It was sent. You have it. Yes, I know your name was the first name that I got when I started the course. Yes, it was sent this morning, today. Yeah, man. Yes, so you'll see it, and if you don't, you just email me and I can always send it again. It should be on the personal line, but AISHA _ SPNCR SPEN Spencer at yahoo.com. All right, Lyra, it looks like Lyra has left the room. Okay.
I'm there.
Okay, all right, so Lyra and Kerry, thank you very much for joining us today. It was great having you on board, and looking forward to seeing you all next week, so look out for the emails. All right, you can say bye to the group.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. All right, take care, ladies. We will speak.
All right.
All right, bye-bye. Yes, you're gonna. But I think actually that you've been granted. Do you have a system at home that you can rely on? Because I actually asked. I was in a lot of distress last week when I heard that you were going to travel from where you were to Mobe. I didn't think it made sense. So I know I requested. Normally, it is not. Students are not given permission to use their own facilities. But I believe that Dr. Rainford, yeah, we could try it out. I believe Dr. Rainford. So I don't know how that would be. It can't come through this. They do it from home. It's problematic. Well, we're giving him permission because he goes from St. Elizabeth to Mobile. And he has he's in this class, but he's usually at the and she's traveling from Portland. Can I try? So yes, she's the one that told me that permission. Yeah. Okay. All right. So Vernon and Sonia, you can't leave me, man. Anyway, but so I don't used to say yes, I know she's not technically leaving me. So this is Mr. Dixon. He will be responsible for any technical aspects. Trying to set you guys up from home. As I said, it is not something that is practiced. It normally doesn't happen, right? So Dr. Rainford has sanctioned it. Yeah, but you know they want you to use their system and their places. So anyway, so what he will need some things from you. So what I will do is converse with her, communicate with her, and then get back to you both, and then give what is required from you to him, and also give. Right, so that's where you're going now?
So I double her. I'm coming 1 hour before I leave her. Not a little, 1 hour.
All right. I'll see what can happen. The truth is, there was only one name that was brought up. No.
Whose name?
I only brought up Vernon last week because I was told he was on his way, and I was asking where he was coming from, and I was told he was coming from St. Elizabeth to head to Mobay, to head back to St. Elizabeth, and I thought, that's crazy. If he's not going to come here, then that's crazy. And so, huh? No, it's not. I'm just saying, but you were here, so it's a little different because I saw him heading to Mobay as opposed to here. Remember, here is the site, right? So just how I saw it, I ended up verbalizing. I ended up saying, so why can't he just stay in St. Elizabeth? And that's when
I did not express my distress to get through last weekend.
No, I know you're fine. So I have no guarantees. I know Vernon was granted permission. I have no guarantees for anybody else. I will do my best. You see, that's what I mean. You see what's gonna start? That's what's gonna start happening. Everybody's gonna say, "I'll just stay home. I'll just do it from home," and then I'm gonna get.
The interaction is good.
The reality is, last week the class foundation, education, the whole issue of access.
What do you mean access?
Access to education in Jamaica. Because we want to. Yeah, I'm looking at access.
Yeah.
Open access. So if you live in Kingston, St. Catherine, or
no, eventually, yes. The issue is, let me tell you the issue.
Yeah.
The issue is you have to remember that a lot of things are tied to the program, including funding. So you can't ask for funding for a facility and then tell students, oh, stay home, because the funding has now been given to set up the facility to accommodate the students.
Understand, but
so there are a lot of other issues.
Understand, but my understanding of online.
Yeah, no, I'm not in disagreement. I'm just saying it's not always as simple.
I thought that would
let Mr. Dixon take over, please.
Support is also an issue.
That's true.
Because as it is right now, because we're in the second week, we have been trying to iron out some problems, and each and everybody was able to log on and could support everybody at once, right? So support would be an issue. The more persons are online. So it would be best if. No, that's for course content.
But there is